All systems nominal.
それでは早速全速前進
You wanna know what the weak point of a mech is? The fucking pilot.
Get away from her, you bitch!
His papers say he was a raven.
Protocol 3.
A pattern blue!
Welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants, a giant robot power hour discussing mechs across media, their stories, and why we love them. I'm Nico, and I'm joined by Alice.
What if Master Chief had an axe?
Axter Chief. And Brian.
Bloated Frog Corpse was my nickname in high school.
This time around, we're discussing a book that really examines the emotional toll of visiting Florida, the 2004 light novel, All You Need Is Kill. Let's launch into it.
Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card. Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card.
I'm sorry, I got too fixated on the fact that her time loop happened in Florida.
It really did, didn't it?
It really did.
She really was in time hell in Florida.
She was there for 216 days in Florida.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So, All You Need Is Kill is a light novel that was published in 2004. It was written by Hiroshi Sakurazaka with illustrations by Yoshitoshi Abe. So, Hiroshi Sakurazaka, yeah?
Nico,
Yes.
What's a light novel?
I don't know. Alice, what's a light novel? I literally don't know the difference. Is it like a novella or?
It's a novella.
Okay.
It's a novella, and they will often have
Illustrations.
maybe a couple pages of illustrations throughout.
Okay.
And they are like 99.9% of the time aimed at getting an anime adaptation at some point at this juncture.
Oh, and I've heard that they have extremely long titles. I saw that there was a generator.
That one time I got caught in a time loop in Florida and got a really badass nickname after killing aliens for 216 days. And I'm stuck here?
I wish that had been the title. I will say, All You Need Is Kill is a choice. That's a title choice that I don't necessarily agree with. Anyway, no, I didn't look up what the difference was, because like the last time I covered a book, I spent like 20 minutes talking about the novella as a format, and I'm like, I can't do this.
No, I loved that. I actually didn't know what a novella was, and now I know what a light novel is in America.
Yeah, now you know the hamburger equivalent of a light novel.
Yeah, in the West, they have light novels, but worse.
Oh my god. Okay, so Hiroshi Sakurazaka started out working in IT, but made his literary debut in 2002 with the first of the Modern Magic Made Simple light novels, which the premise of is very funny. Because it's so .com era. It's like modern magic is actually programming. It's so,
oh my god.
It's real. The spirit of the internet is alive in the light novel. So he started writing those as a series, and then All You Need Is Kill was a smash hit in 2004. He's continued to write novels and some literary critique in the years after. So this seemed to set him up for a career that he seems to have enjoyed. Yoshitoshi Abe, whose art we'll be discussing briefly, who did the original illustrations for the Japanese edition, is probably best known for his work on Serial Experiments Lane, which I think anyone who looks at the art will know. Yeah.
This makes so much sense now that you've said that. Like,
yeah.
full Serial Experiments Lane vibes with the art.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that later, and we'll have the images. We will have hot, juicy images to discuss and on our website, because I lost a day and a half trying to track down these original illustrations. I could not find them. Google could not help me. DuckDuckGo could not help me. I was everywhere. And I said, Alice, please, for the love of God, with the powers of anime, can you find this? And she produced the highest quality scans of this book. So we have beautiful, crisp JPEGs of this art from 2004, which has otherwise seemed to vanish off the internet. So I'm very excited to talk about those.
It's fully off the radar. We've got hot, juicy jackets for you at osgpod.com. Click here for hot action with the full metal bitch.
No.
I'm sorry. We can continue.
No, I do like the illustration of her, though, so I'm glad we have that. But yeah, as a light novel, this comes in at just over 200 pages. And while it's not part of a franchise, All You Need Is Kill saw a manga adaptation in 2014 with a script by Kyosuke Takeuchi and art by Takeshi Obata, who's probably best known for his art on Death Note and Bakuman. So that's most of the art you'll see if you look for this, is going to be the Takeshi Obata art. And then it also got a graphic novel adaptation in the West with a script by Nick Momadas and art by Lee Ferguson. I didn't read it. And of course, it was optioned for film, and that adaptation, which was retitled Edge of Tomorrow, starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, was also released in 2014. So like 10 years after this book came out, like everything happened.
I need to be clear about how much of this story is about how the main character is Japanese, and the choice to cast it's not direct whitewashing, right? It's not Tom Cruise playing Keiji. His fucking name is Bill. But like, why?
His name is Bill. We can't get into it. The strike is over. Congrats to SAG-AFTRA for getting a good deal. We will cover it later.
Yeah, sorry. That was the one thing I needed to say.
Japanese actors weren't invented yet. I'm gonna double down and say it on mic. They weren't invented yet.
All we had was Tom Cruise. We're a poor country. We're a developing country. All we have is Tom Cruise. Okay. What did y'all know about All You Need Is Kill before this episode? Alice, you can go first because your name starts with A.
Thank you. I had seen the Tom Cruise movie, and when I heard it was getting adapted, anime Twitter back in the beautiful era of 2014 was like, oh shit, this light novel was so good. And there was this manga, and so I read the manga at the time because I need picture books. Them word books a little hard for me.
We've discussed this. Your strong stance on the podcast of literacy is a mistake and a crime.
Get rid of it. Who needs it? Pretty pictures. So I had read that, and then I watched the movie, and I mean, we'll get into my feelings on the movie at a later date, but I never engaged with the book. What about you, Brian?
I did not know shit or balls about this. In fact, because I had heard of Edge of Tomorrow, and I literally thought it was like the annual Tom Cruise action blockbuster, which, let's be clear, it also is that.
It is.
But I had no idea it had anything to do with anything else. And so finding out about this was kind of a treat, and then experiencing it kind of totally blind, because I have not seen the movie. Mm-hmm. My hatred for Tom Cruise is beyond words. So, yeah, great surprise. I love when I find something that fucking rules, and hadn't heard of it before. So
yeah, that's kind of, I felt the same way. First of all, I didn't know if Edge of Tomorrow was called that or Live, Die, Repeat, because the branding on that movie was all over the place.
It's actually Edging Tomorrow.
They changed the name after it fully was released on DVD. That's the funniest part.
Oh my god. Yeah, I knew there was something about that. And I knew Emily Blunt was in it. I feel normal about her. But yeah, Tom Cruise was in it, so I just never watched it. I don't know that I'm Brian levels of hatred, but I do not like the man. So so I knew that this book existed and that previous work existed. So it was on my radar in that sense, which is how I kind of knew to bring it. But otherwise, I didn't know what I was getting into. I was just like, I want more mech books. Let's have a book. And I was, like Brian, I was really surprised by this. So let's get into the synopsis. What happened in this dang book?
A lot, and yet so little.
I've perfected. I brought in the energy. I've compressed it. This is the new summer. It's so long. Okay, I'm just gonna do
Honestly, I kind of need this because I read this a bit ago at this point, and I'm like, because of the nature of it, things are jumbled. So I kind of need this too.
So Keiji Kiriya is a young recruit to the United Defense Force, which is a multinational military operation fighting a global war against alien forces dubbed Mimics. While protected by a jacket, which is a heavily armed and armored battle suit, Keiji is terrified in his first battle and sustains lethal injuries. He's comforted while dying by the appearance of a U.S. Special Forces legend, the so-called Full Metal Bitch, Rita Vertasky, who calms him and then fights off a crowd of mimics on her own. Inspired by her, Keiji decides to go out fighting rather than die on his back and kills a final mimic before blacking out. He wakes up back in his bunk on base, and he keeps waking up there. He comes to discover he's trapped in a roughly 2-day time loop that always ends with his death. After initial efforts to desert from the UDF and take his own life, he resolves that the only way out is by finding victory in the fateful battle with the Mimics where he first died, and he begins using his loop time to train arduously. While his body is the same every time he wakes up, he builds a formidable mental skill set that takes him from a green recruit to a hardened veteran in the course of 160 loops. Eventually, his skill in battle is recognized by Rita, who clocks him as being trapped in a time loop. It turns out she once was too, in the American campaign to retake Florida. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about her dying at Epcot. Like,
Florida woman dies at Epcot.
oh my god. Anyway, Rita works with KG to determine how he can escape his time loop. His fate is bound to the mimic he killed in his first battle, as is the Full Metal bitch herself. His final loop sees KG learning a final harsh lesson about the sacrifice demanded by war.
Wow.
And with that, we're going to go to the break. Hey, Nico here in the break. Just wanted to let you know that while this is a podcast, and we'll always do our best to describe visuals we're commenting on, we'll also include links to the mechs and images we discuss in the show notes, and post actual photos on our show website. Along with that, make sure to check the show notes for content warnings as appropriate to the episode. That's all for now. Back to the show. So, we're back from the break. This book. First impressions.
I can read you my favorite of my first few notes, which is this is about KG. This motherfucker wants to be a hit philosophy tweet or an extremely seriously delivered Metal Gear line so badly. A soldier's spirit isn't in his body, it's in his weapon. Solid Snake said that. I don't know that Solid Snake said that, but Solid Snake said that.
I legitimately, I want to find out if Kojima ever published a review of this. I just kind of feel like it would be of interest to him.
It's so in the space.
It is very much in the Kojima sphere. My first impression is I just love the fact that the Japanese hero has to heavily rely on the US and the US military might as a main narrative plot. Let's go, folks.
I will say as a starting point, so it's really interesting. When you're introduced to KG, there's a lot of focus on this failed Battle of Okinawa and, this kind of matter of pride that the Japanese military has. But you're immediately introduced to the idea of the globalism at play in this conflict, because the main reason so many resources are being given to Japan to defend it, because the mimics are on the verge of taking Tokyo, is because they make the electronics that go in the jackets.
Yeah. Or they make the best ones. Yeah. They talk about how other countries have them, but they're just not as good.
Yeah. And it's really funny because throughout the book, so much of the actual, physical reality of the jacket as an object comes up in play, especially with later on you meet Sergeant Farrell, I believe, or is it Corporal Farrell? I don't remember.
Oh, sorry. It's Coach.
It's Coach. Coachy. No, so he's a badass motherfucker from Brazil, if I remember correctly.
He's mixed race, Brazilian Japanese.
Yeah, he's Brazilian Japanese. Yeah. That's part of the reason he's over here.
Yeah.
But he talks about he's got a scar on the back of his neck from when using a jacket used to require a chip implanted in the soldier. And he also talks about at one point the way the plating met at the inner thigh was so painful after enough battle that soldiers would literally stand up and get shot rather than try to crawl or do things tactically because it hurts so bad. Ugh. The details just... Oh, but there is really a global feel to it, but it is really funny how much it's of course it's the U.S. Special Forces, and of course it's God's specialist Midwestern girl, Rita.
Yeah, we're seeing kind of an emerging... I mean, Alice, you've kind of exposited this for us several times, but I just across the genre space, where the one of the kind of side effects of this podcast is we're seeing this kind of preoccupation or fascination of this fantastical Western military imaginary that a lot of Japanese media tends to have. Speaking of Metal Gear, which is just that turned up to fucking 900.
But I really do find it very fascinating because a lot of the preoccupation that they have of, yes, they feel they are their own military power, but they have such a fascination with the Western power, but more so this larger than life technological advantage with also that reserved, it's because of our genius that we do it better kind of thing. Anyway.
There's definitely a really interesting dynamic happening here where it's there's an exceptional technology that KG is working with, but the exceptional people are on the US side. This is Rita and to a lesser extent Shasta and her crew and the exceptional personalities.
Right. Until, I mean, that does kind of change, but yeah, that's kind of like the inciting thing. So this intro, like these first like few pages, this whole first chapter, it's so cinematic. I was immediately blown away. I felt like I was watching the intro of a war movie. It was like, I felt like there was shaky cam. I felt like when you see...
Like we were at D-Day, right? Like,
yes, exactly. When you see Yonabaru, who, side note, I fucking love Yonabaru. He's like my fucking favorite. Just gets owned immediately.
Him and the guy who's just always carrying the porn mag. Those two.
Really are special little guys, some might say.
But, he dies immediately, and it's just like, it's you're locked in Keiji's perspective. So much awful, bizarre, wild shit is happening so casually all around you.
And they're just throwing it at you like, oh yeah, and also we also have pile drivers on our shoulders that we sometimes use.
And I'm in this great cool suit, and it smells like piss because I'm a new recruit, and I peed, and it sucks, and war is hell. Like,
and literally almost all my friends are already dead within like 90 seconds of contact with the enemy.
So he like struggles for a bit, and then I love when I was about to call her Vrita for some reason.
Vrita.
I think my brain did a Vriska. Anyway.
Vriska Vrita.
Average Midwestern girl.
When she shows up and he thinks that she's like death.
Yeah.
Like he describes her as death approaching him to like take his soul. That was so dope. Also, you are in this crazy battle and you see a red mech. I immediately wrote down Char Aznable. Like, is that Char Aznable?
Oh my god, is that Char Aznable?
Can you imagine if they'd gotten Char to play opposite Tom Cruise?
What if Char and Tom Cruise kissed?
Tom Cruise could never pull off Amuro's hair. Let's be real.
But no, I do love it, and I love the little details. Like, one thing that keeps coming up, and then it's just, like, never paid off, but is paid off by never being paid off, is the fucking Western novel. Like, the airport novel.
Yes!
Oh,
that
yes!
Keiji was reading. He keeps waking up every loop with his hand stuck in his place where he was reading this Western murder mystery. And he was talking about, like, the things they get wrong about it and whatever. And he keeps waking up with it in the loop, and it totally falls to the sidelines. And it's only, like, way later in the book that he's like, I never fucking finished reading that book.
Yeah.
I love when his friend is like, and the killer was, as his dying breath in one of the loops.
Yeah. He almost spoils the book and then dies before he gets to spoil it. I love it.
I love also in this first bit when like I'm pretty sure it's like the first thing Rita says is like about the green tea.
Yes.
And I was like, she's such a fucking, like, in the anime of this, she would be wearing a bandana that was the American flag, and she'd be wearing sunglasses. Like, she is such an American anime character.
Do either of you have
so
the actual line she asks him
Yes,
about?
it's right here at the top of these screenshots.
Okay, could you give us a reading?
Is it true the green tea that they serve in Japan at the end of your meal comes free? And
Perfect.
he's
notes.
literally like...
So he's been shot in the chest. He's dying. He's at the bottom of a pit.
He's like actively dying.
He's been in this battle that's been... he thought he was meeting death itself, and death asks him, so that shit free?
And then says, I've gotten myself in trouble for believing everything I read, so I thought I'd play it safe and ask a local. Like in the middle
I
of
love this
shit.
because of the scene it sets up later with Kenji.
Yeah.
It punches you in the fucking teeth later. I was like not prepared.
I know, it's insane. Can we talk about the mimics?
Sure.
Okay, let's talk about the aliens. Yeah.
Yeah, I have never heard a less appealing alien. Like, it's not cool. I will say this about mimics. I don't know what they look like
They
in the
do not
movie
sound
or the
cool.
manga, but like they do not sound cool.
Bloated frog corpse is like the exact language that he says like so many times to describe how they look. And they shoot like bone spikes that go like 10 billion miles an hour or whatever. And they are hard to kill. And they effuse nanobots that dissolve bodies when they die.
Mm-hmm.
There's just like a bunch of weird fucking facts.
They are truly alien. Like they read as horrific.
Yeah, one of the things that's important about the jacket is that it creates a sealed environment. And one of the things that Keiji has trouble with at one point is like scents. He's really attuned to scents because if you pick up a strange scent inside your jacket, it probably means that your environmental seal is compromised and you're going to die from a chemical weapon. And it's wild, but like there's a scene or there's like a little segment later where they do the explanation. They give you the sci-fi hand waving that explains what this is. It's a terraforming tool. These aren't even an intelligent race. They're a tool?
We'll get to that, but I have such a fucking core question about that whole thing, which is, how the fuck do they know this? How the fuck does anyone know this?
Science happened, obviously.
Well, this came out 400 years later at the Geneva Convention's trial for this alien species.
It's crazy. Like, the book takes a huge diatribe to talk at you and tell you the backstory of these things, and it's like, I think that we're supposed to understand that maybe the characters don't know this, but also, it was just very strange. And also very, very fucking cool, by the way, to be clear.
Oh, yeah.
It whips ass.
It's very cool, and I like that it kind of... It creates a dramatic irony because one of the first things you learn about the mimics and the relationship between people and mimics, one, there's this huge war on, and everywhere they go, they pollute. They seem to pollute the environment around them. They poison the water, it turns green, land turns to desert. Like, they're just poisoning the planet. And there are people who are trying to communicate with them, including by setting off bottle rockets before military maneuvers to try to warn them.
There's like a whole eco-terrorist thing. Yeah.
There's this whole groundswell of people who believe that these things are potentially sentient. And that
because we also get this pretty early on, which is that they actually weren't even hostile to begin with. Mm-hmm. They the war as it stands is basically a computerized defense mechanism to make sure that they can just do their little farm job, which they are basically little world box god simulator probe guys. It's very interesting.
They're there to make the land habitable for the race that created them, but they're not alien soldiers. They are a tool, which is I like the scenario that it creates because it gives a sense of hopelessness.
Yes,
to this
it's
because
so crushing.
Mimics don't have a morale to defeat. Like, they don't have all of the work that KG does and all of the things that he suffers. That's not happening on the mimic side. It's really crushing, but I wanted to touch on them because it's, like I said, I haven't read the Takeshi Obata illustrated manga. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know how other people are visualizing them. But I did kind of like that the enemies were so just repulsive and not cool.
Yeah.
And so then your focus really is on the real enemy of KG is this loop and being trapped, I liked that aspect of it. Alice, there's also another early part we need to talk about.
Jake
KG
Busey in
is
Contact. That's I was thinking of Jake Busey in Contact.
You had to Google that real quick. You were like, I gotta find out.
Well, the person who, because we were talking about they were setting off fireworks and stuff because they wanted the mimics to win. Jake Busey in Contact. That's
okay.
Anyway, continue.
There's an important thing that we need to shuffle over to you, Alice, for your insightful coverage. KG's a young man. He hasn't encountered many women. So when he encounters them, because this book is from KG's perspective.
Oh my fucking God, girl. She is breasting boobily.
Or breasting unboobily.
Yeah.
The word chest exists 6 times in this book. One of those refers to the chest plate, which has been punctured by the enemy, and Kiji is dying.
KG. It's because they mispronounce it. The Americans mispronounce it as Cage.
Hey, Cage. The other 5 times, it's talking about the supple breasts of women. So my favorite line in this entire novel, I would like to read to you, and it is my thesis on this entire. Good quote. Of the 3 types of women the human race boasted, the pretty, the homely, and the gorillas you couldn't do anything with save ship them off to the military, I'd put her in the pretty category without batting an eye. We have 3 main females. We have the pretty, Rita. We have the homely, which is Rachel Kisaragi, which that's a first name. And we have the gorillas you can't do anything with, Shasta.
Is Shasta? I don't think Shasta is in that category.
Really?
No, because he describes her as
He describes her as such. I'd snuck a look at her papers. Height, 152 centimeters. Weight, 37 kilograms. Visual acuity, 20/300. Favorite food, passion fruit cake. She had some American Indian blood in her and wore her black hair pulled back in a ponytail. Anyway, My whole thesis on this is
That's so bizarre. We'll
that
talk
this-
about that when we get there. What the fuck?
I'm
this
sorry,
isn't
I believe
harem
she is
anime.
like 4'9".
Yeah.
If she's that short.
Okay, who would you describe as the pretty, the homely, and the gorillas? Because I mean, we would all say Rita's probably the gorilla, right?
I don't think the gorillas factor into this book. Like they're just not on KG's radar.
What about
So I don't
Potato
think
Lady?
anyone. No, Potato Lady. That's Rachel.
Oh,
she's the
pretty.
homely. She's the homely.
She's,
Yeah. Which is so funny. Well, I do really think all of the women in this technically qualify in KG's category of pretty, but I do think it's funny. He's like, listen, there's 3 types of women: sexy or fuckable, my mom, and those other butches that I saw at military camp.
It's a while to write this into a book with the words that you're writing.
Women, my mother, and lesbians.
Do you know this book didn't need at all? This angle.
It's wild, and I really do think it's trying to reflect, because it's so funny, because it's like I do feel like the female characters, at least Rita, the main female character, gets pretty good shrift in this book. She gets to be a character. Weird shit is going on with Shasta's characterization, and I don't even know what to do with Rachel. But
I love
like,
Rachel.
we could have.
She was my choice.
We didn't need the breasting boobily, but yet it felt important because it tells you something about KG.
That's reasonable, I suppose.
But it's very weird because he serves with women in the jackets. Like, Rita isn't the only
but none
one.
discussed. Like
True.
he talks about Rita as the exception, but like the only fellow soldiers we hear him talk about are like Yonobaru, the guy in his dorm who's always reading that porn mag, like the guys from the 4th who they have the rugby match with, I think, and they lost. Yeah, women who don't fit these molds, who aren't attractive to KG in some way, are not appearing in this book, but I do think it's so funny. It's like, here's KG's view on the world, and you're like, okay, I don't know that I cared about this, and then yet at the end of this book, you still care about this fucking guy because he's put through the fucking miseries, the agonies.
Yeah. There's also something to be said about, like, military culture.
Yes.
Mhm.
100%.
And, like, the ways in which, like, it may or may not be. I mean, our boy KG's a little bit of an incel. Like, he was, like, doting after this librarian woman that he never shuts up about, and, like, he's just, like, forever alone guy.
He does have some insult.
I'm pretty sure he, like, says at one point he joined the military to impress her, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
So there's a whole thing going on with our man KG and kind of, like, painted visuals of masculinity. Like, the sergeant coach guy says some pretty fucked up shit later that I don't even want to talk about, but, like, it's just that, like, kind of masculinity that's at play here.
But it is funny because it's like, I do feel like you get a counter perspective. There's a later scene where, first of all, I really like Shasta. This book doesn't seem to know what to do with her. Like, it's trying to be like, there's a lot of different types of Americans. This engineer is Native American. Like, wow, isn't that wild or whatever? But like, there's this scene later where Shasta she goes to a gachapon machine and gets little figurines that are based on Rita's troop, like her squad. And she gets the Full Metal Bitch, and she gets in the suit, and then she gets the Full Metal Bitch out of the suit, which looks nothing like Rita. And then she gets the version of her, and they trade them because Rita's like, I want to keep this one. And she's like, actually, that's a super rare one. Do you mind if I keep that one? And she gives her the version of her. And it's really funny because, like, when the people who made the gachapon figures of them modeled her engineer and found out that she was a female engineer, she looks this very specific way. There's this very specific conceptualization of what she should look like as a female engineer. And there's a very specific conceptualization of what Rita should look like as this legendary figure of the Full Metal Bitch. And they look nothing like themselves. And it was such a funny and almost like insightful moment after breasting boobily KG, because at that point we are in Rita's POV. It made me feel like it was a real authorial choice to have KG be so fixated on women in that way, so that when you then had this scene with Rita, it felt like a really distinct character. So that said, it is just really funny. KG fumbles so many bad bitches in this book.
He really does.
But KG's on a mission. That's the most important thing we need to discuss, which is that KG basically spends, I'm sorry, I would have spent at least 60 loops just fucking around. You would not have caught me on loop 5, like, guess I've got to get really good at war.
Can we? I think we need to do this. So the whole concept is he's stuck in a time loop of these 2 days, right? and he slowly comes up with a plan to try and break it because it's starting to hurt more and more each time it happens. Yeah, he's starting to get migraines, bloody noses. What is everyone's favorite loop? I'll go first. It's the one where he asks his friend for his gun and just immediately shoots himself in the face. Literally wakes up, realizes he's in the time loop, is done, and is like, hey, do you still have your sidearm? And he's like, yeah, it's loaded. Bam.
Oh, I know mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the number. It's the one where he decides to start asking Farrell for help, because then they literally do the gunbuster scene where they turn off the fucking auto balancers and he can't walk in his jacket.
Yeah.
It is literally that scene. It's so good.
And it gets built into every loop after that. Like, each time he has to convince Sergeant Farrell to teach him in the way that he does. It's just part of his built-in loop, like, every time he's getting trained. And yeah, he turns off the auto stabilizers and does this whole bit. I love that loop. It's really good. The whole conversation he has with Farrell, where he's trying to prove to him that it's like...
I don't know about the whole conversation, but...
Some parts.
But I really enjoyed the conversation he had with Farrell about, like, I'm serious about this. How do I not die? Like, how do I not die? And he's trying to impress on Farrell without, like... Because he's having to walk this weird line where he can't just say, hey, I'm stuck in a time loop. That's why I'm acting weird. And I can't get out of it until I get good. Can you please help me get good? So from Farrell's perspective, he's just a green recruit who is suddenly coming up like, I want special training. I want to be the best. And he has to, like, walk that line and convince Farrell that it's like, listen, I'm not doing this to try to show off, but I want to survive.
I think something that... Okay, you two are literary people. You know about writing.
Mm-hmm.
I think this book handles time travel in a really easy way, where it waves off the things that it doesn't need to continue to repeat, but still gives them precedence.
Oh, yes.
Where it's like, oh no, he is doing this each time. He has to do this every single time. It's his plan. But it doesn't make you, like, live through it every single time.
One of my favorite fucking scenes in the whole book is when he is, like, eating lunch and accidentally starts a fight because he looked like he was in too bad of a mood. And it's literally about how he has to play this day so extremely precisely to get everything he needs to get done, that at something so much as a slipped facial expression can throw the whole thing into chaos, right? He calls it calls it tripping a flag. That's the phrase he uses. Yeah.
I love that. And I also love, I clipped one of the excerpts where he's talking about food.
So, sci-fi fucking rules. Sorry.
Sci-fi does rule.
Yeah. But just like, he says, he's talking about lunch, and he's talking about the fact he's making this expression because he cannot enjoy food anymore. And it's pissing people off because they don't understand why. But he says, the first time I tasted it, I thought it was delicious. That was about 5 subjective months ago now, maybe more. About a month into the loop, I started heavily seasoning my food. The intentionally mismatched condiments created a taste just horrible enough to remind me the food was there. And now, even that had stopped working. I don't care if you're eating food prepared by a 4-star chef. After 80 days of the same thing, it all tastes alike. Probably because it is. By that point, it was hard for me to think of food as anything other than a source of energy. I love that detail. And you're right, like, this story, and this is something I talked about with the novella, like, the format, when you're constrained by how much you can write, you have to pick and choose what you keep in. And so, you know, there's a lot of discussion in literary analysis about the curtains are blue, and, like, did the author really mean this to this extent, and how much are we reading into it? But it's a reality as a writer that when you have to meet a certain, like, page count, and you're having to cut stuff, you have to really weigh everything you put in and decide what conveys the most important parts of the story. And I think this story does a really good job of only including the stuff that gives it depth and texture. There's and makes really it, like,
brilliant economy of, like, visual style and things like that.
Yeah, there really is.
Before this lunch thing happens, though, I want to talk about how he gets an old man and a little girl absolutely fucking annihilated.
Yeah, that's the loop I was going to say is my favorite. And not because of that. I really like the beginning of this loop is him deciding, I've got a dessert.
Oh, the world building.
Like, I'm gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to get out of here. And so you get a lot of world building about, like, what is the base like? How does it function? He started to figure out some of the flags in the course of the day that he needs to avoid. but he doesn't know everything yet. And so he's trying to figure out how he can get off base. And he puts way too much thought into trying to figure out how he can get an injury, but not bad enough of an injury that it impairs him. And he's putting all this thought into it, and he accidentally runs into Rachel pushing a potato cart and wrecks his whole shit, and it works out. But I love that because he's...
He like
No, not the first time. Not the first time. After that, he stages it. But the first time, he was walking around like, I'm going to need to get a scalp wound. It'll bleed like hell. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I probably should have pulled my knife out from under my pillow. And he rounds a corner and just gets wrecked by a potato cart.
Yeah, you've got to have... Wrecked by produce is like a mecha genre thing. We have discovered this.
Potatoes are part of the mech genre.
Potatoes and tomatoes.
I do love that he described the fact that, like, when so many potatoes hit you at once, it does feel like getting punched. It's so funny. But yeah, he gets his shit absolutely wrecked, but he finally figures out how to get off base, where he runs into an old man and a child on the shore who are civilians. And Brian, how does that go?
Like, he has this, like, brief conversation with this old man who does drop a couple of really interesting world building things. One, the Chiba City Underground, like the malls that are part of the subway system. This is a huge thing in Persona, so like my brain immediately went there. Those are just like tent cities now. People just live in slums down there. Mm-hmm. The Coast Guard completely abandoned Japan. There is no Coast Guard. That's another like interesting thing where it's like the base is on the coast, they are on the ocean, and the quote unquote base that they're in is like a third of an old Coast Guard base that has just been evacuated.
Yeah.
It's bizarre and crazy. But then he notices that the water is green, which is a bad sign, and then two mimics come out and just fucking full anime like rip these people in half graphically.
They turn them into chunky salsa.
They turn them into chunky salsa in front of his eyes. He's like, oh shit. And then, that's loop number, 5 or whatever.
I think that's the loop right before the loop where he just fucking shoots himself.
It's a good reason.
Yeah.
Something, I want to talk about something because we've said it a few times. Flags. What does flags mean, right? So in visual novels and video games in Japan, there's something called flags, and it's basically a triggering event. So usually a dialogue option you choose, an event you choose. It's a very binary video game thought of you do X and it takes you down this path, and that's how you get sprawling past with your actions. And so he describes things as flags, and they're used as flags because they change the course. As long as he doesn't trigger those flags, and something that comes up a lot is the death flag, right? That's used in anime a lot. So he's trying not to trigger death flags, which there's a bad anime with a title about not triggering death flags. It's based on another light novel based on this. But what I really love about that in the flags is there is another mech media that we'll cover in the future, 13 Sentinels, is also a time loop story in which you are trying to find flags to trigger to go down different paths and try and change the course of history. And this is what? Yeah, it's dope.
I was just yelling about how cool that is.
I fucking love 13 Sentinels, but we've been over this.
This is a pandering shout out, but I know one of our listeners is very excited for us to cover that. So look forward to that. It will probably be coming up next year.
Some might say it's my second favorite mech media ever or something. Anyway,
I'm excited.
All is to say, I think this book does really good at because if this were to happen to you, right? Like, would you have the wherewithal to try and do this? It's 2 full days at a time at maximum at this point.
Yeah.
And you're having to do so many things the same. You'd have to do that over and over. I would just
could not be me.
Yeah.
I hate doing the same thing twice, bro. Like, I can't handle repetitive shit.
Yeah. I was thinking about that.
This is why I don't play MMOs. This is why I stopped playing Sea of Thieves. Like, I can do a full thing one time and then I'm fucking good. Do not make me do it again.
I think it's a really interesting contrast because I think like one of the huge like landmark pieces of time loop media that people look at is Groundhog Day.
Right.
And part of what makes that story compelling is that it's about a guy who pretty much does the same thing every day. I believe he's an anchor man. He does reporting. He works his job. He just lives a very normal life. And what the time loop opens up for him is the opportunity to just do wild off the wall shit to see what will happen. And it's so funny because this is such a contrast where he spends only 5 loops figuring out what's happening, experimenting with trying to leave, with killing himself, with alternate options, and then he immediately commits. The other 155 loops are all about get good at war, which is incredible because, like I started to say earlier, I would have spent at least 60 loops just doing weird shit.
Yeah.
It could not be me.
I think he's in a very, like, this is another, like, military thing where he's just in such a headspace all the time. And then, you know, this is where you mentioned earlier that you don't like the title. I think it's a little bit weird and awkward. And I don't know if that's, like, a translation thing. But I do like the way it folds in because, you know, this is where he gets his resolve. He quickly realizes the only way he's going to get out of this is to see the next day. And the only way to see the next day is to win the battle. All he needs to do is kill, right?
Yep. It's the only way to break the loop.
Yeah, there was a specific line, I don't know if I have it clipped, but he was talking to somebody who was giving him shit about sounding basically like an anime character.
It was probably Yonabaro. That dude just has cracks.
I think it was Yonabara, but he was talking about it, and he basically says it's like, all I have is the battle. I need the battle. Yeah. And that was as close as I got to really feeling like the title fit, because it comes to a certain point where he has nothing else. He just, if he's going to break the loop, this is the only place he can figure out it can happen.
He's
it's
basically
all he has.
subsumed his entire existence into this.
Yeah.
Okay, I will say, so the reason I was like dodgy about the feral conversation earlier, by the way, quick side note, I do not understand how this book is organized. Why is chapter 2 called Feral, but it's not from Feral's perspective, and chapter 3 is called Rita, but it's from Rita's perspective? I don't really get that. Anyway, we're still in Cage's perspective as of chapter 2. There's only 3 chapters. There is he's convincing Feral to teach him. And the reason I was caged about this earlier is because Feral just like drops a bunch of homophobic shit for no fucking reason. It's just like completely out of left field. It's so stupid.
I didn't even remember that. I feel like my brain turned on a filter.
But then, like, there's a couple things. One is, KG, like, this is another, there's like a bunch of hints throughout that KG has like a weird systemic barricade between him and his actual heritage. Like, he doesn't actually speak Japanese that well. The conversation that he has with the old man is super stunted because the old man only speaks traditional Japanese, and he speaks a pidgin, like a wartime pidgin language called Burst English.
Yeah.
It's super dope. But they have this conversation, and then at the very end, he says, "I saluted, and I meant it." Banger.
Yeah.
That was just really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of bullshit about... There's a funny part where they talk about the experience of being in the jacket, and there's basically an open comm line. And so all I could think about was like a Twitch chat. Like, imagine you're trying to go to war, but there's a Twitch chat. Or I guess, you know, in the older parlance, it'd be there's a global voice chat going. There's so much of this that's clearly they're churning through recruits and they're having to take whoever the fuck. And there's not a lot of military discipline. And so when he commits himself to military discipline, that's what distinguishes him and puts him on par with the veterans that matter, in this case, Feral, and with the U.S. Special Forces.
USA.
Can we talk about Rita?
We can talk about Rita. I also...
Mad Margarita?
Okay, yes. Rita's 500 names...
I love Mad Margarita.
Her 500 names are Rita, and she also, Vertaski is a fake last name, we find out later, so whatever.
Well, it's
her
a real
original
last name, but it's from someone else. She stole someone else's passport.
She did. So whatever her normal name is, Rita something, Rita Vertaski, the Full Metal Bitch, Mad Wargarita, which gets no follow-up. They call her that like 2 times and then never again. I hate that name.
It's so good.
It makes me want to say Wario.
Mario.
I need, listener, if you are a mixologist, can you please make us the Mad Wargarita?
It's just a margarita made with piss.
Oh my god. I was going to say conductive sand.
It's a margarita made with Mountain Dew Code Red. That's all I can think.
Wario is yellow. It would actually be the gamer fuel, thank you.
I don't care about Wario. I'm thinking about Rita. This is the Mad Wargarita. It's her drink.
Okay,
it needs to be red.
So I need to talk about something. It's that there's a Stanley Kubrick film called Full Metal Jacket. They're in jackets. Her name is Full Metal Bitch. That was so lazy. That's it. That's my thought.
Yeah, I do feel like there are some allusions. But I will say, as a name for mechs, I really like Jacket. Hey, coming off The Price of Smiles, where they're called like fucking
Theragears,
Theragears, and it's powered by Crars. Like, shut the fuck up. That's my jacket. Love it.
That's
you
my
don't
jacket.
need more.
I'm a jacket jockey. Gamers rise up. I'm in.
I'm just saying, Rita Vertasky walked so that Diva could run. And
That is 7 billion% true.
Damn, so true, bestie.
but no, so Rita grows up in, God, what is the name of her town? I keep thinking of it as Piss Hole or something. That's not it. No. It's like this Midwestern
some town in Minnesota or some shit, isn't it?
It's not Pittsburgh. It's like Pittsville or something in Iowa. And this is gonna bother me. Sorry, I have to find out.
While Nico is finding that out, I do want to say that
I'm ready.
Shasta Rail, Shasta like the cola, Rail, Raylle, is a Gundam ass name. That is a Gundam motherfucking name.
That's a new type right there. That's a new type.
Pittsfield. Okay, Rita. I'm sorry. Rita is from Pittsfield, Illinois. That's America-ass fucking location. But yeah, no, I love Shasta. I want to talk about Shasta too. But so Rita is from Pittsfield, Illinois. She grows up there in the care of her dad and her mom, but most of her memories are about her dad. And it's just this Midwestern town, but it's close to the Mississippi. And she has all these strong memories of growing up and yeah.
We missed something when we were talking about the setup of this. When we were talking about the people that want the mimics to win, they're called Dreamers.
Dreamers rise up.
Which, this is not the fault of the object at all. This is not a Japanese culture thing. This is strictly a thing that blows my mind out my butthole in just a strictly American context. It is so weird. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah.
Will the podcast pay for me to take a road trip to Pittsfield, Illinois for on the scene reporting?
Is it real?
It's hours and minutes away from me. Cut this, cut that.
I think you gotta go.
No, I do not think you gotta go.
I didn't know it was real. It sounds like a made-up place. I thought it was a mix of Pittsburgh and Springfield. Like, no, this is...
Why do you think it would be fake? Why would it need to be fake? None of the other locations in this book are fake. Why would they make them a
Florida
fake American
isn't real.
Florida
I don't know what you've heard of, but, like, Florida's not real.
Florida's fake.
You guys been to Florida?
Been there? Not physically.
But yeah, so Rita, you've got me doing it. But yeah, Rita grows up in Illinois, but she's on the Mississippi, and they have this weird incident where, the mimics didn't used to be totally hostile, and at one point, one kind of slides through the coastal perimeters and makes it up the Mississippi and makes it to her town, and somebody finally alerts and takes a shot at it, and then it all goes to hell in a handbasket because they aggressed it that far inland, and there was no defense for it.
Absolutely none.
Like, her whole town pretty much gets wiped out. And it's a pretty anime pro tag. Like, out of all the anime pro tag origins, like Keiji, I feel like Keiji lampshades the trope of, here's my super cool special boy who's more special than anyone, and that's why he's good at mechs. He spends 155 loops getting good at mechs. Rita is our special boy. I love that for her.
So this sequence is amazing because, like, one of the things that it says is that they actually did manage to kill the mimics, but it took the entire town throwing themselves at them for somebody to finally get a good blow in. They killed everyone, but basically, like, maybe I keep wanting to say Rita. What the hell? Rita and a couple other people.
If it's easier, you can call it Mad Wagarita.
True. Another just banger line from this sequence is, like, right when she's leaving to join the military, she knew she could do it. She was her father's daughter.
That's a Metal Gear Solid ass line right there.
Is a Metal Gear Solid ass line. Meryl,
Boss.
I'm free on Thursday. Meryl, your nipples are bleeding through your tank top and I'm free on Thursday.
Yeah.
But no, I do really like Rita as being the prodigy, as being the special kid, as stealing a passport so she can enlist early, and then having this experience of being really good in the jacket and then getting trapped in the time loop in Florida. Yep. Because, and I love this, it's so funny. This book is so light with the world building. There's a campaign to retake Florida, which has pretty much become a fucking wasteland taken over by mimics because it's an election year.
It's really good.
No notes. That's accurate.
Well, another thing that they say about the initial attacks is that, of course, like the vulnerable, like third world countries with no coast guards were the first to go. But another world building detail that we also get in Rita's backstory is that, like, because of shit like that, because of the fact that vulnerable populations were the first to go, like, nobody has coffee anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to do like a shady supermarket back alley deal to get real coffee. And this informs a scene later that is like literally anime golden hour at sunset coffee pour over moment. I love it.
So good.
I love the detail. And I do love, because, you know, talking about it's like the mimic invasion hurt these people first. It feels really timely. Obviously, this came out in 2004. We knew the science then, but like we are seeing climate refugees. And this really feels like it's talking a lot about technology and about the repercussions of using technology that you don't fully understand the consequences of. That's a lot of what I think mimics are.
This is where we get the, like, where we just jump into third-person omniscient, and it's explained to us that this is a humongous intergalactic fucking colonization effort.
I've got to say, I feel like this was an editor's note. Like, I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I feel like they wrote the whole novel, and then the editor was like, why the fuck are the mimics here? And the writer was like, shit.
Yeah, especially because this was his first big story. I could totally see it being like, oh, we need to play it safe.
And, like, I like this conceptually, and I like the way it's written. It's really beautiful. He talks a lot about, like, how, you know, they were kind of aware that they had no right to make foreign planets inhabitable to themselves at the cost of whatever was already there.
Oh, I have this snipped. I love this part.
Give us a rating, yeah.
So the quote is, the scholars among these people, the aliens who created the mimics, questioned whether it was ethical to destroy the existing environment of a planet without first examining it. After all, once done, the process could not be undone. It seemed reasonable to conclude that a planet so readily adapted to support life from their own world might also host indigenous life, perhaps even intelligent life of its own. Was it right, they asked, to steal a world sight unseen from its native inhabitants? The creators of the device argued that their civilization was built on advancements that could not be undone. Basically, it goes on from there, but it's like, listen, we already invented the bomb. Like,
colonialism exists.
They said, fuck manifest destiny, fuck the divine right of kings. We already made the thing, so let's point it at something. Like, it's really good. But also, like I said, I'm not sure we super need an answer to why the mimics are here. I agree with you. It might have been an editor's note. I just don't know that editor was really on top of it. Necessarily.
The OSG stands fire that editor.
No. But all said, I am glad we have it. It is a really cool little thing to just kind of plop in the middle here. But it was so interesting because I even have in my notes, like, we were just in Rita's perspective. Is Rita telling us this? There's no way. There's no way she knows this. What are we doing?
No way.
Like,
no way Midwest Tech knows it.
I could have used just a little bit of diegetic explanation. Like, Rita recovered this from a mimic somehow or something.
What we do get out of it that Rita does know is that if you kill...
Yeah, this is the crux of it.
This is
so Star Trek.
There's tachyons.
I love this part, honestly.
There's
peak.
Jonathan Frakes, do you read? There's tachyons. There's fucking tachyons. No, so if you kill a specific mimic, there's like a...
Called an alpha?
I thought it was like a server.
This is in the Omega Alpha universe.
The Omega.
The Omega you would know, wouldn't you?
Oh my god.
Impreg exists.
That was this pod on loop 3 or whatever, putting the gun in its mouth just now. That was. Jesus
anyway,
Christ.
So we learn
that this is a little bit like esoteric, but I'll simplify it. Basically, if you kill a special mimic, you enter a time loop, which is part of the mimic's strategy. Right? The mimics are also experiencing the time loop.
Yeah.
So this becomes extremely important, and this was super obvious to me right away. I don't know why this was played as a twist later.
Because it was not obvious to me.
When you kill that mimic, you become the new server that is initiating the time loop.
And the time loop is happening because you're dying, and the time loop is to make it so... The mimics are very good at war, and what we learn is that's because they are abusing this time loop to win battles that they have lost in 50 other timelines.
Yeah.
They just keep doing the battles over until they win.
This was how they knew to get him at the beach. This is why they attacked the base early at the end, right?
Yeah.
They are trying to kill him.
I did not get that you become the new server.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
But not every mimic can do it, and not every human can do it.
Yeah.
It takes a special little boy or a Garita.
Takes a special little boy or a war orphan. Sometimes both.
Yeah, you have to be really traumatized in a specific way. But yeah, that sets up what it turns out to be the final conflict of the book, which was baffling to me because I missed the trick on this. I'm the person who didn't get it. Brian's like, I've already connected the dots. I've transcended the narrative. I figured it out. And I'm sitting here like, why is she hitting him?
Why is she hitting him? Wait, before we get there, So this is the third banger line, the most banger line. I have been thinking about this line since I read it nonstop. It has been in just inside my head. Okay, so there's a character we have not talked about that we don't really like interact with until we get to Rita's perspective, which is the shittiest shithead journalist on the fucking planet.
Oh, this fucking guy.
He is such an asshole. Now, I won't get into a bunch of details. He's just hanging around being annoying. At one point, he interrupts Rita at her apartment or whatever, or like her weird little room that she has on the base.
Yeah.
And she says an insult to him that will be echoing around in the empty corners of my skull forevermore. She says, "Your mother must have been so disappointed when the abortion only killed your conscience."
Yeah.
Yo! She destroyed him. All that was left were his shoes.
Ratioed.
Holy shit, dude.
I think this is important. I do think we need to talk about Rita's team in the U.S. Special Forces because there's a really cool moment that KG has with Shasta, who is the engineer. That's Rita's engineer. She apparently was highly placed at like MIT or something, and she gets pulled in. She works on Rita's jacket, and she also is the person who cut and, like, I guess, finalized or put it together for Rita, her battle axe, which is one of the main fighting tactics that KG picks up in the loops. Guns run out of bullets. Even the pile driver that he has that's really effective has a set number of charges. You can't reload it. He needs something that he can just keep killing with. And that comes to explain for him why Rita uses a battle axe, because you don't gotta reload a blade. And unlike a sword, it can't really get stuck in things. It's like the best of both worlds as far as bludgeoning and slicing weapons. And I love that detail, but when he goes to talk to Shasta to get access basically to a spare, it's really interesting the relationship that Shasta has, because Shasta has been approached by people before who are trying to mimic Rita's style, and they have gotten themselves permanently disabled.
Yeah. I love this scene because it's like, this is like loop 20 KG or whatever. And he's like figured out how to precisely manipulate the guard so that he can get over to that side of the base and shit like that.
Yeah.
And so he's like super confident, and he just walks up and rolls like 3 nat 20 charisma checks on her.
Yeah.
Like one after the other. And she's just like, fuck me. Okay. I guess just have this axe now. Like, it's so good.
But yeah, no, there's this fucked up, the quote that I want to read. Shasta is talking about the problem with the axe, that one of the soldiers apparently was the best person in North Africa when they were stationed there. He wanted to use a battle axe. And Shasta says, each of those battle axes weighs 200 kilograms. A jacket's 370 kilogram grip can hold on to it, sure, but even with enhanced strength, that's a tremendous amount of inertia. He broke his back swinging the axe. If you swing 200 kilograms with the amplified power of a jacket, you can literally twist yourself into 2 pieces.
So cool.
Bro.
So cool.
I did want to ask, because there's something I picked up on as an English major person, and I was wondering if it came through for you, Alice. Did you feel like the text itself kind of echoed the loop? Because there were several repeated moments that for me were like, whoa, like even the way he's writing this is echoing a kind of loop. And I didn't know if that was something that you also were just like, wow, I really like how this repeated, or if you were like...
You mean like how sometimes a chapter or a segment would be written like a chapter or a segment earlier in the book, but with different things? Or repetitive writing styles, or things like that?
Yeah, sort of like that. I was thinking specifically about the cafeteria scenes, because we get 3 different ones. Yeah.
I'm gonna level with you.
Yeah.
I zoned out every cafeteria scene.
There's one that we straight didn't need, which is like when he wakes up and talks to Potato Girl for like 30 minutes. I was like, this is boring. What the fuck are we doing?
There is one cafeteria scene I'd like to talk about.
Yes.
I turned to see a bronze-skinned woman standing beside the table.
Oh my God.
Her apron bound breast intruded rudely on a good 60% of my field of view.
I know.
She stood between us holding a steaming fried shrimp with a pair of long cooking chopsticks. It was Rachel Kisaragi. I'd like to talk about 60% of my vision.
To put this into a book novel. Wow, bro. Is this High School of the Dead?
60% tits.
60% tits in your field of vision?
I love that she just walks up holding a hot fried shrimp. But listen, this was an important part because this was the scene where he gets in the fight with the guy from the 4th, the guy who lost the rugby match. And this is the first conflict he has in the cafeteria. This is when he's eating mechanically and not enjoying it. And the guy like makes it a federal issue because he's got a thing for Rachel who cooks in the kitchen here. And so there's that scene. And then the next scene we have, I believe, is him and Rita eating together. And that's when they have the umeboshi eating contest where they get really sick because they eat an entire like food canister jar of pickled plums, which are extremely sour. And then the next scene is the fight to the death with Rita.
Yeah.
And I loved that repetition, and it made me think of the loops. And it was all just different flags that he tripped. But it was so cool to me to see that location repeated. And this just very much, like, these scenes could have happened anywhere, but of course they happened here because it's a loop. Of course these things are going to repeat themselves. And I loved that.
Alice, do you want to read us in on where we are in the story? Because I feel like we jumped to a certain point.
We've got to break the cycle. And to do that, we have to do a very special mission. We got to kill the big one. We got to find our white whale.
Okay, but this is the moment we do need to talk about when he says, yes, the green tea is free. And she just bursts into tears.
Bruh, that hit me hard. I was like not ready. It kind of dragged me into the depths of despair for a minute there.
One of you read this scene to me. One of you read this conclusion to me.
All right, do you want to hear this? Do you want to hear this passage about green tea? So for context, this is in Rita's perspective. And so in case we weren't clear about it, the time loop is only really perceived by the person that is going through the time loop.
And Rita's kind of always dreamed of, since her experience in Florida, someone else having this experience as well, because she's really alone.
Because she broke her loop. She got out of her loop.
She got out of hers. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, it seems like she's gone through multiple, maybe? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
There's a moment where she talks about the process of how to get out of it as if she's done it like a million times.
Yeah, I think she's done it before.
Well, they talk about other battles she's been in where she's come out on top, and there's no way she's doing that without this ability, right? Like, even
that's exactly what I was thinking too, yeah. So, point is, she has to relearn who he is every day.
Mm-hmm. He has to re-ingratiate with her every single time.
So he's just walked up to her. The number 157 was scrawled in Arabic numerals on the back of his hand. Rita didn't know what it meant, but it was an odd thing to do. Odd enough that Rita didn't think she'd be forgetting him anytime soon. So you wanted to talk. What is it? All right, he said. Well, get on with it, soldier. I'm a patient girl, but there's a battle tomorrow and I have things to do. I have an answer to your question. He hesitated like a high school drama student reading from a bad script. Japanese restaurants don't charge for green tea. Rita Vertasky, the savior of humanity, the Valkyrie. That's another one name that she has, by the way, is Valkyrie. The 19-year-old girl let her mask slip. The Full Metal bitch began to cry. I was not ready for this.
Yeah.
Like, I really wasn't.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So good.
I kept expecting a specific phrase, but for him to just walk up and be like, hey, you said some shit to me before, and clearly this has been on her mind because she brings it up in the first battle he encounters her. Mm-hmm. And for him to just answer a question, she's never met him before and never asked him.
She knows.
She knows right off the bat she's no longer alone.
She
and it just
knows.
fucks her up. And there's a passage later when he does it like the second time where he doesn't know. He hasn't looped enough to be accustomed yet to her just bursting into tears. And he specifically reflects, he's like, I really hope that I don't. I feel like it's really important that I don't ever get to the point where her having this emotional response is rote to me. And I'm like,
it's so good.
There's a lot of ways in which their chemistry, there's a lot of moments where I'm like, I don't know. But they have really got something going on that's just like beyond. It's really good.
It's such a good, like, I love the trope of we're the only two people who experience this. Like, I love that trope in media.
It's huge.
We saw it in Promare, we're the only two who can pilot this together. Or in Gunbuster, we're the only two going through this time dilation.
Yeah, actually, they're the only ones sharing time. I'm so glad
or in Price
that
of Smiles, we're the only two who are sad about war.
Mech pilots really think they're the only ones going through it.
They really do. Shinji Ikari out here like, no one has suffered in their life ever before my mom died.
Oh my god. Shinji wishes he was Keiji. Keiji got in the goddamn mech. I'll give him that
You
much.
know what? Keiji got in the robot.
Yeah.
That's one thing. You could say that for Mr. Keiji Kiriya. He got in the fucking robot every time. But anyway, all of this basically builds to a final confrontation that I did not fully understand until Brian explained it to me about 15 minutes ago.
Wait, really?
I didn't really get it. I was like, okay, I guess she's experienced this also, and so I guess she's part of the loop now, and he's got okay. But the ending for me just did not hit at all because I did not understand that, like, Keiji had become the new server, and she was an antenna. I did not twig to that at all. But yeah, basically, she discloses because he does, like, everything right in one run, and he thinks they are done. And she discloses later that she figured out that she's capable of doing this. She started getting migraines when this loop started happening, and she didn't really know why. And she's become an antenna for this server. And the only way to finish this is to kill all the antenna of the mimics, and then kill the server mimic, and that breaks the loop. Which it comes down to the fact that Keiji and her are both in this, which means that only one of them can leave alive and break the loop.
Yep.
I didn't get it.
It's like it really kind of put a hand through my solar plexus and said, "Feel sad now, sir." And I said, "Okay." Because like I do not like this trope of like guy who gets better than his female teacher in 2 days and then has to kill her or beat her. This is like full Doctor Strange. Like I don't like it. But the pros.
It's the plot of the Lego movie.
Shit, you're right. That too. Is the Lego movie a mech movie?
No.
But the prose here was so affecting.
Yeah.
The fact that her last words are like, "I hate red skies." Oh my god, it was so well done. But anyway, sorry, Alice, what did you think of this whole situation where they're in the cafeteria and they have to fight to the death?
I'm trying to read through it again just to
refresh,
just because I want to try and refeel the feeling.
While you're refilling the feeling, I do want to say, Nico, you pointed out the way that the like cafeteria scene echoes the umeboshi contest, which echoes the fist fight. I do like it that it's deployed. I do not like it that it's deployed and then Keiji has to talk about it. That cheapens it for me. Let me be the one to say, yes, this is wonderful. You are in the cafeteria doing the pickle eating contest, but you're in mechs now.
Yeah, I always think when things like this happen, when there's a repetition stylistically and then the character has to point it out, that it's an indication either the writer or the editor didn't trust their audience to get it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
And it's tough. And I get it though, because like you have to think about what the target audience for this is anyway. And it's like, I'm not going to say like an age or a demographic, but the content, the format, like this is aimed at a certain audience that isn't like...
It's pulpy.
Yeah, it's pulpy. It's not like literary. So I kind of get why they felt the need to be like, okay, now I've got to underline it, you know?
Well,
Alice, did you feel, did you go through the loop again and feel it?
I did. I looped through the ending again to reaffirm my feelings. Here's my thoughts on the ending and what I love about this book. So... in a lot of these and a lot of media, you get the noble sacrifice, right? And so the first play at this is he realizes that only one of them can live, and he Natasha Markanrov Avengers jumps off the cliff and throws... You remember the scene in Endgame where they're like, no, I want to kill myself. No, I'm going to kill myself.
You mean Natasha Romanoff?
Yeah, whatever.
With the most Russian name of all time.
You mean Natasha Margarita?
Natasha Margarita. But so the scene in which he gives her the line and he's like, I don't, ever want to get used to her crying, right? Mm-hmm. She is so dead inside from all of the looping, from the never-ending war. And it's not that he's releasing her from the endless cycle of war, which is like the easiest trope and like really like that's what it is. But also it's like she is like, no, be the person I believe you to be. Kill me. The person that I trained for this and that I put in this position, I did this knowing that this is how this was going to end. And I need you to pick up the torch for me and go on and keep this fight up and make it worthwhile, because she's been tired since her town was attacked as a kid. Honestly, I love this book because I see it as Rita's story. I don't see it as his. I see him as being a part of Rita's final chapter, and that's what makes it beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what he ends up doing. He's probably going to repeat it, but also that's kind of it's all repeating because her story was repeating and now it's over and now this is his beginning kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just love look, at the end of Metal Gear Solid 3, spoiler alert, you have to be the one to pull the trigger on boss, and Rita was boss, and Keiji had to take on the title of Big Boss. But that's it. You're good.
Okay, thank you. Took the headphones off. Don't want to ruin the year of the Metal Gear.
It's my favorite scene in the entire series. So,
just to give a sneak peek, most of my hosts in 2024 are going to be dedicated to Metal Gear in an event we're calling on this podcast
the
Metal Year.
I hate this podcast.
Alice, say the Metal Year and I'll sync it. Alice, say it.
The Metal Year.
Yep, I'm gonna sync it.
Hell yeah. I have an anecdote about my experience finishing out Metal Gear Solid 3.
Can you also add that I hate it? I absolutely hate that we're calling it the Metal Year. I need this on the record.
Yes. But I need to tell Alice specifically that
I'm ready.
The fact that this is her favorite scene. I have an anecdote about what happened to me as I completed the story of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater that I will not say until we're at that point in the pod. But I'm dying because it is so bad and fucking hysterical, and you're gonna hate me forever. Anyway, moving on.
I can't wait. Can't wait.
Well, we saw the end. Well, we get to the end. Keiji, unfortunately, does kill Rita, breaks the time loop. And I do appreciate, like Alice, you were saying, it's like normally this is kind of a triumphant, heroic moment. The last loop, the final loop, the one that becomes like the text of reality that everyone else sees, Keiji kills a war hero. And like they defeat the mimics and like they survive the counterattack and like they're good to go. And you know, presumably Keiji is then going to go to the US Special Forces and be like, I had the exact same experience Rita did. This is what happened. Let's continue the research on the loops, whatever. But the text of the story is that like everyone left on the base who survived the attack has no idea what to do with him. They hate him.
My boy Yonabaru in a cast just glowering over him. That made me so sad.
Oh,
But they realized that he's the new war hero because they wouldn't have survived without him.
He's the new Valkyrie. He's the new Margarita. And it's such an interesting note to leave the story on. They decide to dub him Killer Cage, which is how the Americans pronounce his name, Keiji, Keiji. They pronounce it Cage. And so they call him Killer Cage and scratch that into the front of his jacket. Yeah. And
he paints it
like
blue.
It's this moment.
Because that was Rita's favorite color.
Yeah, Rita hated the red skies from the attack on the beautiful town of Pittsfield, Illinois, which Alice will be visiting.
I'm out here. Can I do a reading of her final moments?
Yes, please.
Yes. Wait, can we do it as a back and forth?
Oh shit, do you want to play Rita?
I'll play Rita. Wait, do you do a better I'm dying voice, Brian?
No, I do not.
Are you sure you don't want to be Valkyrie?
Brian, you're Keiji.
I don't have page numbers though, so how do we sync up?
Where do you want to start? You win, or do you want to go farther on?
I think we can start with Juan. Don't apologize, you won.
Okay. Don't apologize, you won.
Juan? Can't we just keep repeating this? We may never leave the loop, but we'll be together forever. We can be together longer than a lifetime. Every day will be a battle, but we can handle battle. If I have to kill 1,000 mimics, I will. 1,000,000, I will. We'll do it together.
Every morning you'll wake up to Rita Veratsky, who doesn't know you exist.
I don't care.
Rita shook her head. You don't have a choice. You have to break out of the loop before what happened to me happens to you. In this goddamn thing while you still can.
I can't sacrifice you to do it.
The Keiji Kiryu I know wouldn't sacrifice the human race for himself.
Rita...
There isn't much time. If there's something you want to say it now. The Crimson Jacket slumped.
I'll stay with you until you die. I love you.
Good. I don't want to die alone.
I think we can call it there. That line right there. Fucking Han Solo, I know, wishes he was fucking good. I don't want to die alone. He wishes he was good. I don't want to die alone. Banger.
And I love it because repetition. This is exactly what she did for him in the first ever loop.
Yup.
He decided not to die on his back, but she decided to stay with him so he wouldn't die alone. Banger, banger, banger style. This is why the written word was invented. This book was why it was invented. It was all leading up to this. The Gutenberg Bible, the invention of Latin, it was all so we could get here. Sorry, that was an insane tangent.
Honestly, the dialogue in this is just so, like, it could have fallen into the, like, even the military jackboot assholes, like, yeah, they're military jackboot asshole tropey, but, like, they're pretty written okay. I love the dialogue in this, honestly.
There are so many lines. One of the things we didn't talk about because it's fucking racist as hell is
Oh, yeah.
Rita's group points and laughs at the Japanese unit like training exercises and calls it samurai training. And one of the things Rita says about it is they were doing what American soldiers did best, which is laugh at those less fortunate than them.
Banger.
Like.
The context of this is wonderful. So this happens in Okinawa, which long torrid history, Japan, warfare. But one of the things is with the U.S. occupation of Japan, our largest base in the whole Asian territory is in Okinawa. And it's a big problem because it's a major Marine base and U.S. Special Forces base for Southeast Asian Pacific Theater, right? Our CCOM is over there. You know CCOM. Central Com, all of the comms, Africa Com, anybody?
I only know XCOM. That's not a joke.
CCOM, Southeast Asia Command. So it's all based there.
I didn't even know that was what that was.
Yes, so it's very big, and it's a very big issue for Okinawa because the Marines will go off base, they will cause problems for the locals, and they're kind of seen as a parasite. There were major protests in the early 2000s, and continue to this day, of the local population trying to get them to move the U.S. base to a place farther away from here, because it could go in many other places, right? It doesn't have to be in Okinawa, but America wants it there as a sign of our own national pride from when we attacked them, and it's just a long-running thing. So I love the narrative of this being in Okinawa and it being a changing of the guard from an American soldier to a Japanese soldier. And I love that kind of narrative beat that it brings to it, that historical nod, just because it is a big thing. Like, here's the official stance of the pod.
Oh boy.
Okinawa Air Force Base needs to be moved. That's I'm going to say it. It's in a bad spot. So,
I'm so glad we have Alice here. I did not know any of that. And I'm like, my brain is like seeping out my behind right now.
I knew just a little bit. And like, I've known for a while. I mean, realistically, the United States does not need all of the foreign bases that it motherfucking has everywhere. It's like having a fucking PD in every goddamn country in the world. And it's not every country, but there are a lot of different places where we have bases, and the story kind of repeats. There are a lot of not just cultural clashes, but literal interpersonal clashes in these different places. It's really interesting that you talk about how the soldiers react to the Japanese that they're watching, but then also like Shasta just straight up is experiencing racism from the Marines. And the only reason it doesn't happen is when Rita is around. So all I can say is, KG, you gotta live. If only you gotta help Shasta out. You gotta stand up for her rights.
So he ends up with Rachel, right?
Fuck, she died. That was the whole thing. She died in the final loop. They killed your wife. The 60% tit. It's dead. 0% tit.
I would have redone it. I would have killed her a few times. Well, no, then you couldn't loop. No, you could have died before. Okay. I'm trying to think of like how I can min-max my run in All You Need Is Kill so I can get the Rachel ending. Because I've got to get those game CGs of the Rachel ending.
Me and Elden Ring with Melina.
Do we want to talk about, very briefly, and we can kind of segue into the rating, do we want to talk about the illustrations from the light novel that you dug up for us? Our beautiful illustrations.
Yes.
So, as I mentioned, the original illustrations for this book, both the cover, which is the only illustration that's kind of persisted in reprints of this that keep the original art, the cover is pretty much the only thing that survives. These illustrations were by Yoshitoshi Abe, who's usually known with everything small caps except for the AB in his name. So he worked on Lane, and he did illustrations. He did the cover, but he also did some larger color pieces inside the light novel, and he did character art and chapter insets in the novel.
Okay, here we go. I have looked at these in brief, but
Are we going to go through them one by one, kind of?
I figured if you were down for it.
I have
Alice, take
so
us
much-
through the beautiful images that you found for us.
Yeah. So our first is the cover, and that's kind of what has persisted, and it's Keiji in a broken open jacket, aka it's open so he can come out, and we kind of see the inner workings, the padding on the inside and the kind of weird alien look it has, as well as the many weapons on it, and the fact that he still has to wear like a suit on the inside to interface with it.
Yeah.
This is dope as hell. You can see the pile driver too.
I love it. Like, I
super
legitimately, like, this is why I wanted to have these illustrations, because, you know, I don't know what the process is. I assume it's the text is written and then the artist works from the text. But, like, it really feels like these illustrations were in conversation with the text, and you can really get the feeling for what the jackets were like.
Yeah.
So, I really like to see them.
Yeah.
And he looks fucking pissed and tired. I
So
do like
Keiji
that.
looks like anime protagonist A, which is a Japanese man with kind of spiky short black hair and steel eyes. You know,
Yeah.
anime protag.
He's even got a Band-Aid on his face.
He does. He has the cute Band-Aid. So the second image, which is one of the other colored images, that's Keiji meeting Rita. And I love this because Rita's shorter than Keiji by a bit.
That's something that's pointed out in the book, is like, there's a real disconnect between her kind of her call sign and her nickname of the Full Metal Bitch, and the reality that, like, she enlisted early under a false passport and she is 19.
Yeah.
And Keiji makes a point of pointing out that her body looks underdeveloped. She doesn't look, one, super muscular like those muscular gorilla women he was talking about, but she's also not breasting boobily. She is almost like waifish in comparison to what you'd expect.
Yeah.
One of the important things with the jackets, and we can kind of touch on it when we talk more about them, but the jacket does the work for you. It's about skill and finesse and how you use it. You don't have to be strong to use a jacket. You don't have to have well-defined muscles.
You need endurance.
You need endurance and you need knowledge. And so, yeah, so Rita looks waifish. She looks like a small farm girl from Iowa, for God's sakes. But, you know, she is the war hero of the United People.
She is our mad war queen. I've decided we're leaning into that. They didn't use it enough. We're going to use it.
This third one is Yuri.
Yeah, this is Yuri to
So
me.
the third one, we see Shasta and Rita. And yeah, it's just Yuri. We do get a sense of scale. We see that the axe is basically as big as a human torso, like one blade on the axe.
It looks so good.
And we see her red jacket in the background. Yeah,
the
it looks
jackets
so
do
good.
have like a weird, like, bioorganic look to them too. Like they look like alien invaders in a way that's just kind of really interesting.
To me, they look like Genro the Wolf Brigade, that kind of armor, that kind of like Panzerfaust armor vibe. I know you guys totally remember Genro the Wolf Brigade, right?
No, but when you said Panzerfaust, I've seen some military designs that look like this.
Oh, these fucking guys. I've seen this before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the jackets have that kind of vibe to them.
I will say I fell in love with this illustration because it's giving me just a little bit of Riza Hawkeye from FMA, kind of the vibe. She looks fucking tired. She looks very competent and very tired especially compared to the previous illustration where she looks a little more vulnerable. Like, this is her with her engineer. She's in full metal bitch mode. Like, I really like this illustration. This was the illustration, if I'm going to be honest. This is the one that made me go, please find this book, because I wanted to see what else was there.
And
this is, I think, the pinnacle, but, like, yeah.
I like the single shot of Rita, if I'm going to be honest. And then we have a picture of Keiji and Aryona Baru and another squad member in front of their jackets, kind of, you know, showing the sense of scale. I liked this, honestly. Again, I'm a visual person, and like I knew the jackets were not like close armor, but bigger, but it was hard for me to kind of grasp that. I have to hiccup.
Yeah, it really helps. And I'm really glad that there is an image that we can use for Yonabaru when we make the special little guy Hall of Fame image for him.
Rest in peace. Our next image.
Yonabaru survived, to be clear.
Yeah, he survived, but he a little fucked up. Yeah.
So the rest of the illustrations in this are the chapter titles. So that was Recruit Kyria is that one. And then we get into the next chapter, which is Sergeant Farrell. And we get a picture of Sergeant Farrell, who is a African-American man with a giant scar on the back of his neck.
Well, I think they're trying to convey that he's mixed, like Japanese and Brazilian. They're trying to capture some South American look to him. And I mean, at least it's not offensive. You did your best.
I forgot his name was fucking Bartolome.
Yeah, they did hit this man dirty.
Motherfuckers be out here being named Bartolome.
But I do like that you really see, it really centers, his body as a soldier, but especially the huge knot of scar tissue on the back of his neck from the old ships.
Our next picture is the next chapter, Bitch of the Battlefield, which is just a nice forward shot of Rita showing her fatigues over her battle suit sleeve thing.
And her fatigue in her eye.
Oh, she looks so tired in this image. I love this image. I love Rita. I love Rita so much. But this is just like, this is exactly how I envisioned her, which is so done with this. So
Alice, when we go to a convention as the podcast, and you cosplay as Rita, I will build a full armor suit of the red jacket to follow you around so you can pose with it. That'll be our cosplay. I'll just wear the big armor and just clunk around behind you.
I'm the special edition Gachapon. You're the common rarity Gachapon.
Yeah, that feels right.
Brian, who are you going as from All You Need Is Kill?
The potato cart.
You're not going to put on a huge set of honkin' Hondas and go as Rachel.
If anything, I can side part my hair and do little tails and be what's her fucking face. I was gonna say Salem Mass. This is how Gundam her name is. Shasta. There we go.
Oh yeah, you could go as Shasta.
Yeah.
Honestly, we could get you some big round glasses. We could do this. Yeah. The tallest Shasta to ever live.
Our next one is the chapter 5 title Killer Cage, which is a very tired KG.
Traumatized KG.
Yeah, KG has inherited the eye bags.
But he has the coffee, which is like big.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good.
Also have,
it's a good
nod. Such a hard reboot moment where Rita's like, "Have you ever had coffee?" And he's like, "I've had sludge." Like,
and she's like, "You fucking
coffee,
fool!
You fucking fool!"
I can't think too much about the fact that her starting the coffee and teaching him about it, but never getting to drink it herself, echoes the whole situation with the time loops in the end of the book. I can't think about it too hard.
You'll cry again.
Anyway.
It'll reach through. And then our last is the illustrator afterwards. So in most light novels, because the illustrator works so closely with the author in making the kind of art direction, so usually they'll have an afterword from the author, which they did, and it was pretty good. But then they also had an afterword from the illustrator talking about his work with it and kind of, praising the author, but then also showing his design for the jacket. So this is the closest we'll get to an official design of the jackets, in that it is the official design. And I just think that they just look neat. They look
really cool.
They look really, really good, you guys.
This is our moment, I think, to segue. Alice, what do we got to do?
We've been in this loop of talking about this for a while, but we've got to break this cycle. And to do that, we got to rate these goddamn mechs. Yeah,
so the only mech we have to really talk about is the jacket and its 2 color variations of limited rarity. Yeah, and so I think that's a good place to look at this illustration, because this gives us kind of the breakdown of the way he drew it. And my first thought, before I even ask you to what your ratings or thoughts are, this motherfucker got Crocs.
Oh no, I have to look again. Where are the Crocs?
Look at the feet.
Bottom right foot.
Oh no! It's the right shape and everything.
So think about that when you're coming up with your scores.
Alice, you go first. Did we lose Alice?
With Crocs?
No, she's just contemplating Crocs.
With Crocs, how you can get the Croc charms to put on them? What Croc charms are you putting on your jacket?
Oh, the little toes. The little toes for sure.
Oh, God. I've never looked at these. What kind do they have? I think I've seen Shrek ones. To be fair, my jacket would probably be green, and I feel like I would come into the hangar ready to do war and, suffer, and one of you motherfuckers will have put Shrek charms in the Crocs of my jacket. Oh, I feel like you would do that to me.
I would. And it would be like a little charm that's a carton of milk.
Also, to be clear, they're called...
That's what I'd put on your jacket.
They're called gibbets, is the official name of those. And the only reason I know this is a podcast I listened to released official gibbets for Crocs because they kept talking about Crocs.
I fucking hate it. I don't like it.
You know what I like about Crocs? You know that kind of Mormon porn where they just put circles over everything? It's like,
God, yeah, bubble porn.
yeah, it's like that, but for feet pics. Because you get a little bit.
I'm so...
Alice is inventing new sentences. None of those words were in the Bible.
Brian was like, I really want Alice to talk a little bit more this episode. I feel like we should hear her voice. And then she says shit like that, and we all have to live with it.
Anyway, the one that I would put on my jacket are the ones where it's like a little plug you can put in the holes, and they're like little toes as if they were poking out of the fucking holes in the thing.
I hate it.
It's so gross. I want to put one on my jacket.
Oh, it's so evil.
Let's talk about it.
But yeah,
So,
the mechs, the jackets.
The mechs, the jackets. So I think this is a very pinnacle episode for us because we're finally talking about something which is hotly debated. Are power suits mechs? And I think it depends is, as always, going to be the answer with this stuff. But I think in this case, it very much is. It's full enclosure. It requires a user input. They're not autonomous. What I like about them is it's military hardware. You know I love a generic boy. And what is more generic than we've got the one kind and everybody has the same weapon? As a weapons platform, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, it is just a jacket and then you can put different weapons on it. And we standardize what weapons you get. And it has different things for the different things you're going to do with it. The grenade launcher, the 20 millimeter, the pile driver as, like, I love that because it's obviously, that is the solution to the problem of the mimics. You know they didn't come with those originally, right? Those are put on for this war. And a lot of what the jackets are doing is because they're the infantry. They say it in a couple of the different battles where it's like, the idea is they are to hold the mimics while the long-range artillery blows the shit out of them. And that doesn't work ever with the mimics because the mimics are going through the loop. But there's a specific scene where before he gets to the axe, why he wants to go over to the US barracks is because the Japanese jackets are smaller and sleeker and only carry a 20 millimeter round in their gun. And the US Marines have a 40 millimeter. Now, if you know what a 40 millimeter is, that's basically a grenade from a grenade launcher is what that machine gun shoots. And he's like, that's what I need. I need better firepower. And then he starts going through the, well, an axe makes more sense because I'll run out of ammo and all of this. All this to say, I like that kind of weapons platform as a thing. I love how it's used in each of these fights. And every fight I read, I was like, I'm in. I get what they're doing. This is cool looking in my head. I do have to dock it for the fact that there's only two special variants, the Shar Aznabal and the Unit 1 exam type from Blue Destiny. And so honestly, like, this is the peak of, maybe it's because it's text, but this is mid. This is so mid to me. It has one mech that's very good, but nothing that shines out. So this is a 4 for Alice. That was a long way to get there. We were in that loop of that conversation for a while. Brian, what about you?
You were perfecting what all you wanted to cover.
So, as is the canon so far that I've cultivated of my ratings, I really care about scale. I will say this plays with scale in really unexpected ways. Like we were talking about how, you know, used in an untrained manner, these fucking things can rip you in half. They do not care about your human body. They are gigantic, heavy machinery. Another thing that I think he mentions this as like kind of almost a plot contrivance during the final loop, but you can't pilot someone else's jacket. It will kill you. That is an extremely cool detail to me. And yeah, to me, not all power suits are mechs, but I think these ones are. And I think, like, if you're talking about war machines, a power suit makes a lot more sense than a mech. Like, okay, we're in this pod. We're doing this genre space. We love it. I love it.
This is a safe space,
This
Brian.
is my favorite fucking thing in the world. Mechs don't make any fucking sense.
Hey, now.
Like, you can't pilot that thing effectively. The human body shape, this is a thing that comes up a lot, actually. The human body shape is not extremely optimal as like a killing machine in all cases, right? We could have made them look like anything, and we made them look like us. But I just really love the way that these are like intimate. Like Alice was saying, like every single battle is like on the edge of my seat. I can see it in my head. It's so cinematic. It's so nuts. There's so much like crunchy machinery bullshit. They talk about, there's a line, this line solidified my rating. It's at the very beginning. He's talking about when Yonabaru dies like immediately, which by the way, having characters die before they even have a line is a really good sci-fi thing to have in your time loop story.
Yeah.
His jacket did a dance macabre for about 10 seconds before it finally stopped moving. What a great thing to say to me at the beginning of a book. Like, wow. So anyway, all that to say, this is a 7 for me. This was huge. Like, I really had such a good time with these little boys. They're very small. I usually like my mechs as big as possible. This is why I'm a Gurren Lagann fan. But I had a great time with these little guys.
Referencing the unused potential title of this podcast, Size Queens. Oh, I love that. So yeah, I'm a big power suit person, actually. I think a big part of me wanting to do this podcast was eventually to be able to talk about power armor and Fallout. Like, I like kind of human scale, a little bit bigger power suits, and the equivalent of being in something that's basically on the same scale in relationship to your body as a car. You know, it's a little bit bigger, it's built for a specific purpose, and it will fuck you up if you're inside it and something goes wrong. This book hit me again and again in those feelings. Like, I brought it up a couple times. I loved the evidence on Pharrell's body and the things he talked about with the subpar jackets, you know, needing the chip in the early models, the damage to the inner thigh, just letting people, I mean, it's putting people in a position where they'd rather just stand and die than crouch or crawl. Like you said, like the fact that jackets have to be tailored for their pilot, because if you try to climb in a jacket that isn't yours, it just destroys your body because it's not tuned for you. The hardware cannot work with your body and it's too close to you. You know, it's going to tear you apart. The quote I read in about, you know, the issue that Shasta ran into and was traumatized by, which was the elite guy in North Africa who wanted a battle axe and broke his spine swinging it, you know, with this hard suit. Like, I love so much the relationship between a mech is a piece of heavy machinery and it enables us to do exceptional things, but it can also destroy us in ways that we haven't even conceptualized and in seconds, you know? This is also a 7 for me. I'm part of the 7 crew. I feel really strongly about these mechs, despite the fact that, like you said, like, I mean, the fact that the only customization is a paint job and KG getting basically a war crime nickname, you know, carved in the front of his is a little rough. I would love to see more variation. Obviously, mine would be green.
I want a yellow one.
But yeah. I really liked him. I really enjoyed him in this. And I really love the illustration. Like, I just really do. I love the mixture of organic and military shapes. I love the use of circles because they bring to mind, like, the guard on a machine gun with the circles in it. Like,
yes.
Yeah. I enjoy it a lot. I like it as a piece of military hardware. I could almost join the mass production camp with Alice. So.
The guard on a machine gun.
Also, we're Pac Rim Blorbos. My personality was formed around Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm going to love a robot war machine that is designed hand and foot only to kill a creepy alien.
Yeah.
I am always going to fall for that.
I do love it. So, with that said and that covered, and with these beautiful, crisp JPEGs of the illustrations preserved in the record at osgpod.com by Alice's powerful efforts to dig them up out of the archives, we're going to go ahead and head to the break, and after that, we will have a game.
Hey guys, Alice here. So On the Shoulders of Giants is a brand new podcast. We're still getting ourselves started. So if you like what you're hearing and kind of want to hear more of it, maybe leave a 5-star review on your podcasting app of choice, especially if you're on Apple, because that would really help us out. And if you know anybody who might like mechs, point them in our direction. We'd love to hear from them and, you know, maybe they'll like what we're giving out there. Again, if you like us, leave us a note. Send us a message, leave us a review. Just, interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, let's go back to the episode.
Welcome back from the break.
Da break.
Da break.
It's time for a game.
Da game.
I called this name, or
I called this name.
Jesus Christ.
Call me by your game.
Okay, retitle. Okay, I originally called this game Monikers. It is now called Call Me By Your Game. I'm immediately stealing that from Brian TM. So this game,
okay,
I'm going to give you an allegedly real military call sign. I say that because I sourced these from the internet. You never know.
People don't lie on the internet. What the fuck?
It's never happened.
Then I'm going to give you 3 short explanations as to how the person in question got it. You need to guess which one is the actual explanation. If you've listened to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me on NPR, this is the kind of format. 2 lies and a truth. You need to guess the actual explanation. If the first person gets it right, they get the point. If they don't, the other has a chance to steal because there are 3 potential stories. I fixed it from my last game. So, we're going to start with Alice.
Burger.
Yeah, and how much do you think it is? All right, Alice. Our first call sign is chaos. This is the call sign of a former Marine Corps general.
Boring.
Did he, A, personally champion the use of AGM-93 Chaos air-to-surface missiles over others? And I just said missiles. The most southern fucking... Anyway.
They got the missiles.
The missiles.
The missiles over Iraq.
So, explanation A, personally championing the use of AGM-93 Chaos air-to-surface missiles. B, get given it as a joke, with Chaos standing for Colonel has an outstanding solution. Or C, earn it due to the absolutely wild state he and the men in his command always left the cafeteria during his service.
I'm gonna go with...
Do you want me to run through them again?
No. Cafeteria one, too jokey for somebody to get the general title for them to keep that. The first one, absolutely not. There's no way. Nope. No. It's gotta be number 2. That's my final answer is number 2. Colonel has
given it as a joke. It stands for Colonel has an outstanding solution. You get the point. That is correct. This was the former call sign of a former United States, I believe, Secretary of Defense. So, all right. Number 2, our second call sign, Brian. This call sign is omelet. It is the call sign of a Dutch pilot. Did he, A, formerly work as a bouncer, with the Dutch word for bouncer, uitschmeider, also mean grilled egg? B, get caught poaching an officer's higher quality breakfast as a young recruit? Or C, break a few eggs, aka take action during a joint operation that resulted in the deaths of non-combatants?
I hate it here.
Oh my god, if it's 3, I'm gonna be so upset because omelet's the best fucking name I've ever heard. Oh, what a good call sign!
Yeah.
Can that be my call sign in anything we ever do? Except for if it's the third one. Can I? Oh, I want it to be the second one. I'm gonna say it's the second
Get caught
one.
Poaching an officer's higher quality breakfast.
There's no way it's that one, but...
Okay, unfortunately, it is because apparently the Dutch word for bouncer also means grilled egg.
Hey, I'd like to steal.
So
I was gonna say the bouncer one.
Oh shit, I forgot about the ability to
You have
steal.
to give Alice the point there.
Alice gets it. All right.
Because
I believe
war
you.
crime
You're
nicknames
so right,
aren't
Alice.
really...
That makes... Yeah, that's what I'm
war
saying.
crime nicknames, I mean, we know they exist.
And the first one's boring. Come on.
The first one's so mundane, it had to be that one, right?
All right, Alice, our
Hello.
third call sign. Call sign, Holy Ghost. Call sign of an Army officer. Did he, A, serve at the same time as both his father and his older brother, who got to be the son in the Holy Trinity? B, dance so badly at a military ball, his peers likened it to a revivalist moved by the Spirit? Or C, serve as chaplain to a squadron whose collective call sign was Ghost?
This is a hard game.
I know it's not number 2. I refuse for Southern revivalism to make its way into our games. I want it to be number 3 because I love Ghost Recon all of the Ghost Recon games, but I think it's gotta be number one. I think that's gotta be the answer for me, is that he served with his family, because that sounds like something they'd fucking do.
Unfortunately, you're wrong. Brian, would you like to steal? The remaining answers are B, danced so badly at a military ball his peers likened it to a revivalist moved by the spirit, or C, serve as the chaplain to a squadron whose collective call sign was Ghost.
The dancing one?
Unfortunately, you are both wrong. He was just the chaplain to Ghost Squadron.
Boring.
Fucking
They called him
place.
Holy Ghost.
Also, I knew it. This game is dragging its balls across my face. I'm getting murdered out here. I'm standing up because the chafing from getting questions so wrong is hurting my thighs.
You'd rather get shot to death by the game.
I'm firing. Brian, our next call sign, lawn dart. It was the call sign of a pilot. Did he, A, do exactly what you think he did with an airplane, aka land it nose down in the ground? B, get wasted and fall off a curb face first? Or C, manage to fire 3 consecutive missiles, which all malfunctioned?
Damn. Hey, y'all, this game is difficult. Okay, I feel like wasting... Well, see, it wouldn't have been his fault that the military ordnance was wasted, right? Because they must malfunction. I was going to say there's no way they would let him have a nickname for wasting a bunch of material. But I'm going to go with the first one. The nosedive one. Was that the first one?
Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's incorrect. Alice, do you want to try to steal? The remaining options are B, got wasted and fell off a curb face first, or C, managed to fire 3 consecutive missiles, which all malfunctioned.
So here's my thought. When you become a pilot of anything, you don't start with a call sign, right? So I don't think he had fallen and smashed his face open and people called him lawn dart and then became a pilot. I think it happened, he was just like corporal asshole and he fired 3 missiles at a MiG-29 and they all failed. So I'm gonna go with option 2. He fell face first off of a curb.
You are correct. He did fall face first off a curb, and that is why he's called lawn dart. I really wanted it to be because he put a plane in the ground.
Honestly, but that's a really good one.
That's a great nickname, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe whose round was this? This was Brian's and Alice stole. Okay. Alice, next call sign. Smokey with an E.
Bandit?
Call sign, yeah, like the bandit, but not from that. I can promise you that. Call sign of a pilot. Did Smokey stand 6'4" and weigh 230 pounds? Did he start, that's A. B, start his working career as a park ranger at Los Padres National Forest? C, accidentally start a forest fire during a search and rescue exercise?
All right. People in the military are assholes. I'm going to go with number 3.
You are correct. He accidentally started a forest fire during a search and rescue exercise with a faulty flare.
That's some shit you do in basic, and they never let you live it down. You will never live that shit down.
It did get me. But I will say the specificity of A with 6'4" and weigh 230 pounds, he originally started with the call sign Bear because of that. And so then when he set the forest fire,
Smokey,
they renamed it
the
Smokey.
Bear, and then it just became Smokey.
Yeah.
And if you know, you know. Love it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, Brian, our next call sign. Fish. Call sign of a female recruit.
Oh.
Did she A, happen to be built like a brick shithouse with fish standing for fuck is she huge? B, accidentally detonate a can of tuna trying to cook it unopened on a grill? Or C, wear a mermaid cut gown to an Air Force formal one time?
The third one would have been if it were a guy.
If he wore a mermaid cut gown?
Yeah, that's the men in the military like love to wear dresses as a joke, and also because they're all gay. But anyway,
As a joke, bro. Just bros doing a joke.
Let me slip a finger in, bro.
Bro, that's so funny, bro. What if I sucked you off, bro? That'd be hilarious, right?
I want it to be the detonating a can of tuna one, but I think it's the fuck is she huge one.
That is correct.
Yes!
I got one!
Brian, fish is all caps, and it stands for fuck is she huge.
I wanted that one so badly. I'm so glad it was that one.
Yeah, I worked really hard to try to find a call sign for a female anything that was not horribly sexist, and this is the one I turned up.
I thought fish was about to be horribly sexist. That's why I groaned.
I know you did. All right, Alice.
Hi.
Next call sign, Fridge. Call sign of a lieutenant. Did he...
Lieutenant Fridge.
Yeah, Lieutenant Fridge. Did Lieutenant Fridge, A, earn it by putting away a lot of beer? B, frequently get caught in the fridge on base stealing others' unmarked stored food? Or C, once put brie in the fridge instead of out at room temperature and get taunted by his men as a Philistine?
Nobody.
Brian's little quiet. Fridge.
Are you supposed to leave brie at room temperature?
I don't know shit about cheese.
You are not supposed to refrigerate brie.
Oh, fuck. I think it's...
Alice has to go to the fridge right now.
I'm gonna go with number 1 because drinking culture.
That's a fair shot. Unfortunately, it's wrong. Brian, do you think it was B, because he was stealing food from fridges on base, or C, because he made a brie faux pas?
It's B.
Unfortunately, you're both wrong.
No, absolutely no.
I was just about to say, no fucking military.
What military?
Is gonna be like, you did not put the brie into the correct receptacle.
Were they French?
They wrote up a little blurb about this.
What the?
That's bizarre.
It was some guy. It was an American military base.
Absolutely not.
Somebody had brought some cheeses, some crackers, some grapes to try to zhuzh up a little event with some of the partners of the troopies.
And they
he
the
put
brie.
brie in the fridge, and somebody started giving him shit about it, and it became a thing. So they called him Fridge, Lieutenant Fridge.
Love that.
All right, Brian, this is our last one. I made this game a little bit shorter because I knew I was going to be reading a lot. Cornbread, call sign of a pilot.
Yes.
Delicious.
Did he...
Fucking love cornbread.
Yeah. Did he, A, have a best buddy whose call sign was grits? B, just make really good cornbread? Or C, drop phosphorus on an Ohio cornfield during a training exercise?
Jesus Christ.
Alice's face.
Ohio.
I'm gonna go with the secret fourth one, which is he played Spec Ops: The Line once. No.
Use the whiskey Pete.
I think it's probably the boring one. He made cornbread really good.
You are correct.
That's the one. I'm so happy for him.
This man just made really good cornbread.
It's got 2 fucking ingredients, but all right.
No, apparently he was on a survival training and they were teaching him how to make rock ovens as a way to cook in the wild. And the recipe they used was cornbread, and he made really good cornbread, and he did that at pretty much every base he went to subsequently, to the point where he went to Afghanistan, met a guy he'd never met before, and the guy went, "Oh, you're the guy who makes really good cornbread." I think that's wholesome. The military can have wholesome. 1 W, and his name is Cornbread.
And his name is Cornbread.
Hope he didn't do any war crimes.
Hope.
That's our game. I'm going to run some hard math real quick.
I'm pretty sure I got 1 point.
Hey, you did great.
No, Brian, you got 2 points.
Yeah.
Yes! So close.
Alice got 4 points, and there were 2 questions, both Fridge and the Holy Ghost, where there were no points assigned, but Alice does take away the win on this one. Congratulations. All those hours of being a Milsim nerd were worth it.
Nailed it. Guys, what we need to spend some time at some point to work on our own code names for when we get our own mechs, which is the end goal of this pod.
I will say the most important thing I learned about call signs in the course of research for this game is you can't give yourself your own.
That's right.
It has to come from somebody else, which is how you end up getting called lawn dart or Fridge. All right, so that was our game.
Big dyke energy.
Thanks.
Brian's is just the F word.
Wow.
But lovingly. Not in the shitty way they did in this book.
Brian, on every military document, is just a cigarette emoji. Because they can't reclaim it.
Brian, I'm sorry.
Mine for Alice is long, but it's a really unique trans girl who likes anime and guns.
Wow! Hey, whoa! I think that was a hate crime. Hold on.
And mine wasn't? I killed her. Oh no. This was a hate crime. Whoops.
Oh, God. No.
I love you so much, Alice.
On this day, I was murdered, but the loop will cycle again.
Yeah, Alice is fine. Alice didn't kill the server. She'll be back. Okay. I was trying to think of something funny, but I can't think of it. I think we've got a flash transmission coming in.
Oh my God! The flash transmission is as follows. Dear OSG, recently I, an up-and-coming reporter, visited a small New England town to watch a groundhog come out of a hole. Long story short, I killed the groundhog, then I died. I seem to now be repeating the same day over and over again and can't break the cycle. It was fun for a while, but it's getting kind of old. How can I break the cycle? Thanks, Tom from Channel 5. P.S. Please don't feel the need to address the time travel question of how I would ever receive an answer to the repeating day I'm in. We get it. Time travel stories are weird.
Thanks for covering our ass on that. I really do appreciate that.
Thanks, Tom.
Brian, any thoughts?
You got to figure out how to get in a mech.
It's like, what, 1989? You gotta...
Wait, don't the groundhogs in that one Wallace and Gromit movie, like, form together into a giant mech?
Those are rabbits, but yes, this is Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which I'm petitioning for us to go over next
Fun fact,
year.
did you know, so this is a tragedy, did you know that the studio that makes the clay for Aardman has been shut down, and they literally only have enough clay to make one more movie?
And it's going to be the best one, Chicken Run 2.
Wait, is that real?
That's
Chicken
real.
Run 2 is
No,
coming,
that's
and
real.
they're all running out of clay. The people who make the clay for that claymation, they went under. There's no one making clay anymore. That is studio claymation quality.
We gotta kill capitalism.
All you need is kill capitalism.
How could this happen? How could this happen? Y'all don't even know the lore. I grew up with Wallace and Gromit every day. I was watching The Wrong Trousers. I can't believe this.
Wait, are you really learning this now, live on the pod?
I'm learning this live on the pod.
You're on the wrong side of the internet. Damn.
I love
Missing the real
Wallace
news.
and Gromit so much. I'd heard about Chicken Run too, but I didn't know it was a matter of life and death.
I mean, it's Chicken Run, so...
Well, for the chickens, it
Which
is.
is a new sentence.
For the chickens. What are your thoughts on how to get Bill Murray out of Groundhog Day?
Well, I mean, obviously he's in 1989. I think your advice is sound. He's just got to go to the Chrysler dealership. They will hook him up with an all-American steel mech that he can kill. Well, no, I think the obvious answer, if we learned anything from this book, is he has to kill every other groundhog in Pennsylvania or wherever the fuck he is, and then he has to kill the original groundhog he killed in the first loop, and that will close it. So
that's how he gets out of it in that movie, right?
Yeah, he kills every groundhog and then the OG. I haven't seen it in a while. I assume this is true.
I never watched the end of it, I don't think. Is it true love? I forget how he gets out of it.
It's true love.
Okay,
just
that's what I
like
thought.
when you're holding your girlfriend that you just killed, named Rita.
Does she even count as a girlfriend? Well, I guess they had that date with the coffee.
They
Alice,
say
what
love
is
at the
your
end.
advice?
My advice on this, honestly and truly, you know, you gotta fuck the groundhog.
Yeah?
Look,
Now you have to?
yeah, it's the only way to break the cycle.
Is that what Keiji was missing? Could he have kept his girlfriend and escaped the thing if he just fucked the bloated frog?
No, because the nanobots would have eaten his dick off.
That, too, is Metal Gear Solid.
Well, Bill Murray, I hope that this helps.
What are we?
And please do use protection when you...
Why did I say that? I hate myself.
Because you're right. And that's this episode of On the Shoulders of Giants.
Smooth.
I'm sorry, I'm still just thinking about it. That's this episode of On the Shoulders of Giants, where we discussed All You Need Is Kill. Any parting thoughts, gang?
Yeah, I've got one. Fuck Rachel, marry Rita, kill the other one.
Wow.
Shasta? You forgot our girl Shasta?
Kill Shasta.
After all of the cola she made for you?
Look, Rachel, she's hot. I'm in it. Whatever, but I gotta marry Rita. She's in it for the long haul. And Shasta, I don't need that. I don't need that in my life.
You don't need someone to make you an axe. Alice is incorrect. Brian, what are your closing thoughts?
Look, we as a public need to do the work of holding it down for Stephanie Sue, but also acknowledge that the two best Japanese/Asian actors on Earth are Tom Cruise and Scarlett Johansson.
That's a round that is fired into the future from this loop. You're just sure it will meet its mark. Oh, God. Thanks for listening. Pilots, remember you can reach out for advice from the team at our email, questions@osgpod.com, and non-pilots can send general questions or feedback to the same address. You can also catch up with us on social media. The links are in the description for updates and more. Be sure to check back in 2 weeks when we'll be discussing the final, the epic, the only conclusion of The Price of Smiles Part 3, where we finally will rate those goddamn mechs.
And discover what the price of smiles is.
Yeah, we'll finally get the bill. Until then, goodbye. I love you.
Stay with me until I die. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you.